morning, everybody. It's Sunday in Trento and it's a beautiful sunny day. You can hear the church bells in the background, and I'm going to take a trip to the Trento cemetery today, which is actually very close to where I am. It's just, you can actually see it from here. If you see those, I don't know if I can zoom in, yeah, like this area here. That's the cemetery right over there. And I noticed the other day that they had a section for World War I veterans, and I think that looks very interesting. So I'm going to be going over there. I'm going to show that to you in a bit. Bye. So I want to start off by showing you where we are. This is via Cardinale Cristoforo Madruzzo, and last week on Facebook I posted some photos of Palazzo di Cardinale, or Palazzo delle Albere, and in that I'm moving over here so you can see down the street, way down the street down there, is that that archway of three, I don't know if you can see it, it's way down the other end of the street, and if you look this way you can see the palazzo. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this is that the cemetery is actually right here through the property. Now, obviously it wasn't there when the palazzo was built. The cemetery was put here later because it's traditional to keep cemeteries outside of the city walls. And so back in those days, this was not actually part of the city. This was in kind of the country area. And so down there's the palazzo, and on the left is where we're going to go see the cemetery of the caduti, the First World War. When I was back in my room I said veterans, but actually it's not the veterans, it's the fallen of the First World War. And I'm going to show you that in just a minute. Here's the sign of the entrance to the memorial area for the soldiers. Notice that it actually has two different areas. It says Sacrario Caduti Austro-Hungarici and Sacrario Caduti Italiani, and that means that they buried the soldiers from the Austro-Hungarian army and Italy in two different places, which I find very interesting. So the Italian ones are on the left and the Austro-Hungarian ones are on the right. So this is the shrine of the fallen soldiers from the First World War, of the fallen soldiers from the First World War who were in the Austro-Hungarian army. You'll notice that it's in both Italian on the left and in German on the right. And those of you who are unfamiliar with this area, you may wonder why it has the Austro-Hungarian army. Actually, this part of Italy, Trento and Trentino, the province of Trento in Trentino, was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and actually they were fighting the Italians, which is why there are two cemeteries here, two memorials here. So they were fighting Italy. Some people were very pro joining Italy. They did become part of Italy at the end of the war. Some people were very pro-Italy and others were not. So there was a big schism in the area, even amongst the people here. So this is a memorial to the soldiers who fell during that war, who were from the Austro-Hungarian side. And I'll just take a little walk around it. It's quite big. I don't see the names of the soldiers on it. I thought it might have, but so far I only see the memorial, but it's quite, oh, well, let's see what it says back here. Let's see. It has a bunch of names, but I doubt they're everybody. I seriously doubt it. But it does have several names. Maybe they were some of the people from Trento, so maybe that's why there are few. Because my grandfather fought in the war. He didn't die, but he and many others, many thousands of others, were prisoners of war in Siberia. And of course many died. But this may be a memorial to the Trento citizens of the city itself. So now I'm in front of this pretty amazing building. There's several of them. These are different family vaults. So we see family Armanini, family Bizia. I'm going to take a walk in and we'll have a look. Really beautiful. See if you recognize any names. De Carli. It's a glare. It's not really blue. That's a reflection of the mountains in the background. It's really quite impressive. Giovannini. Now you notice that Italian cemeteries put photos of people on the graves, which is really something they don't do in other countries. And not all of them, obviously. This one doesn't have any. But it's wonderful because it helps us get a picture of that person. The other thing you might notice is that there aren't that many very, very old cemeteries. Look at this one, Bonvecchio. Slightly older. See, these people from the early part of the 20th century. So this is all from the Bonvecchio family. This is their vault. And you see that the most recent died in 2005. Whoops, walked on something. But for the most part, most cemeteries do not have very old graves in Trentino, and that's because they recycle the areas. So you're not going to find things that are 200 years old or so, except maybe priests who were very important to the area. For the most part, families will be recycled. So these look like quite new tombs comparatively. Piccari, not Pancari. Fedrizzi, I see. It's Fedrizzi. Okay, so that gives us an idea. And here's the view from the other side. Really is quite breathtaking, the whole setting. It's a beautiful place of rest. Is that you can use cemeteries for reconstructing your family history. And this is an example. Here's a woman whom I don't know. I've never heard of her before. Her name is Inez Armani, and it says V. Castelli. And V means Vedova. That means that her husband's surname was Castelli. Now you can see her photo there. And we actually have full information about her birth. Now, let's say she's an ancestor, or maybe you suspect she's a cousin or something. Well, if you see the birth date there, I'm not in Trentino, trusting that she was born in Trentino, but the name Armani is a Trentino name, we can look that up, 1915. And because it's more than 103 years ago, it should show the names of her parents. So we can take this information and then look back and find her parents, and we can start constructing her tree. Here's another. Now I know I've got a client with the surname Bertoldi in the family. This one is very interesting. His name is Secondo Bertoldi. It says he's a pharmacist. So, and he was born in Lavarone and he died in Trento. So he was born in 1872, and we can certainly, with all of that information, reconstruct a good bit of his history. I have done some pretty extensive reconstructions of families using graves, and I have met cousins that way. I have found people who were connected to me that way. And here's a woman also, shows her names. Although that's 1919, so we may not see the parents because it wasn't 103 years ago. But the facility we have with Nati and Trentino website is extremely useful in combination with graves. So maybe this will give you some ideas of what to do when you're in Trento, or in Trentino, visiting your ancestors' cemeteries. Take lots of photos of older graves, especially, and newer graves too. And you should be able to do a lot, even just with online resources. Okay, something of interest that I didn't know actually was here. This is the grave of Cesare Battisti, controversial figure amongst people of Trentino descent, because he was a pro-Italy during World War I. He was a leader to join Trentino with Italy. He was executed by the Austro-Hungarian army, quite brutally, I have to say. They weren't very nice to him at all. He was executed at the Castello di Buonconsiglio on November 12th, 1918, it says. And anyway, he's a controversial figure because not everybody wanted to become part of Italy, but those who did consider him a martyr, those who didn't consider him a traitor. So at any rate, this is his tomb, and also his family, which is really interesting. Like, here is his brother, Giuliano, and I just thought this is very, very interesting. So it has everybody in his family. So if you're trying to construct a history of his family, you've got all this wonderful information right here. Now finally I found some older tombs. All of these people were born either in the 19th or even this one even born in the 18th century, and as I said, that's not that common. However, this person here, this is the one born in the 18th century. This was a priest, so a priest named Francesco Lunelli, and he was born in Civizzano in 1792. This one's interesting. I know Maffei is a surname a lot of you are familiar with. What's interesting about him, it says that he was an obstetric surgeon, which, and died in 1880. So it makes me wonder if he was part of a place called l'Istituto dell'Alastro, which was kind of the cutting edge of maternity and obstetrics in Trento, or in actually Europe at the time. I was wondering if he was part of that. It'd be interesting to follow up. This grave is of a lady named Pia Battista, Battistata, and also Fidencio Battistata. Now the reason why I bring her up, or I took her picture, is it specifies that she was a teacher. And that was very, very prestigious back then, in the late 19th century. I have a great-great aunt who was also a teacher, but it was very prestigious for educated women to be teachers. They stood out. Inside this memorial, there's many tributes to more famous people. This one is to different writers and a poetess. Really lovely, and these are different monuments to different famous people. Again, this one actually two for Cesare Battisti, and they call him a martyr. Again, depending on which side of the war you are on. This is for the family Mazzurana, and the gentleman in the statue is the patriarch, obviously. And according to what it says his name is Felice Mazzurana, and he had worked in industry and in the arts, and gave generously to promote industry and the arts. Generally seen as a big benefactor to help the city. He was born in Rovereto and died in Trento in 1866. And that's Felice. This area is actually very interesting because these are all counts and countesses. And so, if you're looking to do the history of some of the more illustrious families in illustrious in terms of titles, in the area. There's a lot of information here, and you know, many different families. Here's the Londrum, but it's just a tomb. It doesn't say anything, but it has a beautiful coat of arms there, which I think is great. I'm getting eaten alive by mosquitoes again, so I think I'm going to have to leave this area. It seems to be in the tomb areas. That's where they seem to be, not so much out in the open. But there is so much spectacular stuff here. I just wanted to film it. This is the Festi family. Look at that. Look at that tomb. I'll try to get some pictures there. I can't read it and film at the same time because the sun is a bit bright. So this is the tomb of Baron Simone Turco de Trento, and there's his wife, who I believe says her name is Contessa Virginia Alberti. Has the information of the family there, and many different photos of them there. I find that quite interesting to just see, you know, whether or not these are your ancestors. I just find it interesting historically to see all of this information. Okay, now as much as I love to stay here, I really do have to go. I don't know if you can see my leg, but that's just one leg. I've been eaten alive by the mosquitoes here, and I need to get out of here and into the city. So see you around. Bye. Okay, so I've just left the cemetery. I turned right from where I was. You see some old walls, and these are the original walls to the estate of the palazzo, which is over there on the other side. To get there these days, you have to go under a tunnel because there's a railroad going through it. But you have to remember that palazzo, and those are the walls going into it, and then the road going all the way down to that archway, if you can see it way down there. This was all the property of the estate, of the Cardinal's estate back then, and it's really changed quite a lot in the last 500 years.